Mark, in a minute, I want to get to what we can do moving forward to strategically accomplish a single-payer healthcare system. But one of the things that I'm so confused about is why in this moment we don't have progressive lawmakers who have said they're supportive of Medicare for all, really taking advantage of the uniquely awful situation we're in with this pandemic to fight and push for Medicare for all. I feel like there's really been silence on this policy ever since Biden became the presumptive Democratic nominee. And so, obviously I'm asking you to speculate a bit here, but why do you think that is? And do you think that this is, a smart strategic move considering Trump's in office and we're trying to get him out? Or do you think that this is really a missed opportunity?
I would say, first of all, that they've not been completely silenced. There was an effort to vote against the Democratic program platform precisely around this issue of Medicare for all. And people like Ro Khanna, publicly said that they were going to vote against the program. Now, they never actually announced the final vote count on that, but it's my understanding that 700 to 800 delegates to the Democratic convention probably voted against the program because of its exclusion of Medicare for all as a path forward. So there still is a subdued movement there, but look, Trump happened, and we're in this moment of real kind of existential crisis here. The calculation of many of these politicians has been that, we've just got to, step aside and work to elect Biden and defeat Trump. And so, I wish people understood ways to walk and chew gum at the same time to, support the defeat of Trump, worked for his defeat, but also continue to fight for Medicare for all. But that, is not, the strong point of the sort of progressive side of the Democratic Party. So, that's the reality. Until we have, a real working class political party in this country, we have the political field of play is very limited, and, particularly in these do or die electoral moments.
To expand on that, now that Bernie's campaign has ended and it feels very bleak, what's the strategy going forward? I mean, you said as you say that it seems like right now the political parameters have been very limited. How do we expand them? How do we get more people involved in the labor movement? How do we expand the power of unions? What comes next?
Yeah, well, you have to remember that an election comes and election goes, and they kind of can be seen as a way to assess the respective strength of various social movements and other phenomena, but they don't themselves necessarily build the power that we need to make the changes that are necessary. And so, this is a moment when we ought to really be thinking about what we need to do to build power, to engage, to prepare for the fights going forward. My personal opinion is we've got to get rid of Trump, and the only pathway forward from that moves through the election of a Biden administration. I think we can try to engage as much as we can in electing, strong Medicare for all supporters to Congress and other political positions, and we can use that election campaign to do that. And the other thing I think that's really people can be very responsive to is linking this fight to the crisis that we're all in right now. 1 million workers a week are losing their jobs and will continue to lose their jobs. Those who have lost their jobs a month or two ago are beginning to lose their health care. We need to incorporate a really robust emergency health care benefit for people to make our way through this economic crisis and make our way to the other end of this pandemic. And that should be based on a public goods model, a social insurance model like Medicare for All. There's a bill pending in both houses called the Healthcare Emergency Guarantee Act. Sanders is the principal sponsor in the Senate, Jacobin in the House. This is a bill we ought to be talking about and talking to our congressional representatives about. The Senate went home without doing any emergency relief extension for working people. We're all going to be back in town in a couple of weeks, and the emergency is going to continue to play out. People are getting desperate, and that's where the fight is moving into the election.
Well, Mark, don't worry. Democrats are working hard to expand COBRA, unaffordable health care, if people have been laid off. It is devastating to see these two parties and see just the lack of representation for the best interests of Americans, for their own electorate. And I want to leave the interview with a powerful part in your piece, which again was published in Jacobin. You write, labor must be central to this movement, and part of our challenge is to work to extract union officials from their instrumental relationships with the Democratic Party. Likewise, the movements for racial justice must contend with a Black political and managerial class that has made its own peace with neoliberalism. Any final thoughts before we go?
Well, I think I said it all in that in that summary there. I think that's really our challenge going forward. That's the labor campaign really works to move the labor movement into this fight. And I have to say, I think that the conditions have changed so much that once this election is over, because it really taints how people view this, we can really move forward. There was a big fight, for example, at the American Federation of Teachers convention last month about whether the union should hitch its horses to the Medicare for All fight or have a more generic fight. And the only real argument against going all out for Medicare for All that was made was that it would be out of sync with the Biden campaign and could perhaps provide succor to the Trump campaign. And so, when that is over, there's no other reason left to do nothing other than fight for Medicare for All.
All right. Mark, again, thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation with us. We appreciate it.
Great to be here. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. Man, I'm always so impressed with people who have dedicated their lives to fighting for, single-payer health care, fighting for labor, especially in a country where it feels like an endless fight where you get nowhere.
Yeah. And
sorry to make such a depressing comment about it, but I just have endless respect for people like Mark.
Yeah, I love the old timers, the people who like Bernie, Mark, Adolph Reed, the people who had to wander through the wilderness of the 1980s and 90s, early 2000s when where the left was like less than nothing. I mean, right now it's not like we're powerful, but there's things like Jacobin and the show that stuff did not exist back then. So the people who kind of maintained the torch, so to speak, in that long march through the desert, I always appreciate hearing from.
Definitely. And, one thing that Michael Brooks would talk about all the time was the importance of building strong progressive institutions, right? Mm-hmm. And media is a big part of that. So I'm so happy that the Jacobins of the world exist. And we're hearing ideas that otherwise would never be heard in a country like the United States with its mainstream media.